Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. I'm Robbie.
I'm Jason.
And welcome to the table. Super excited to have you guys here. It is, we're recording this on our usual day. Just a little out of order. But before we dive in, Jason, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, man. It's a little rainy and overcast here, but it's actually cool weather. So it actually makes me happy. My house feels great because it's actually kind of cold. How are you doing, brother?
Hey, I am doing swell. I just got back from Orlando where, like, at first you want to be like, oh, it's Florida, so it's just really warm. But honestly, Birmingham is so hot as well that, like, we just kept, every time we thought it was hot, we just pulled up our phones and looked and we were like, oh, it's actually like the same temperature in Birmingham right now. So I'm already looking forward to my November trip up to y'all because it's like, I'll actually get to wear pants, maybe a light hoodie occasionally. So should be a really good time. But Jason, you've been playing some games. You had a birthday celebration this weekend, and you got to play some fun games.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it's only been a week since we last talked, as you just said, but I actually technically got in 3 games. The game we're talking about today, as well as 2 other games. One was a different version of a game that we've talked about, Clank, but it's Clank in space. Same basic mechanics in that you have cards and that you're making noise and that you're playing cards, dual use cards, either move through it, fight monsters that are still attacking, or buy other things. The difference here is you have to go hack. Thematically, you're hacking the computer to get into the vault to get the things. Really just means you got to go to certain spots and put a cube there and get a bonus. That putting that cube there is not an action. You automatically get to do it. And then you can't go into that area to get one of those artifacts till then and come back out. It's fun. When Clank in Space first came out, from looking at reviewers, they liked it a lot, but over time it's kind of fallen off. It's not bad, but like that extra hacking and you have some other transportation ways, some other ways to move across the board that are interesting. But when I first played it, I loved it. But I played Clank so much more since then, as to include Clank Legacy. I was like, okay, yeah, Clank in Space isn't bad, but I could get rid of Clank in Space and not bat an eye. Or it could be my only Clank and it'd be a great game, right? But since I have the regular Clank, the Clank in Space, I'll just never pull it out. So when you're here, if you want Clank in Space in November, you can have it. And I mean that honestly, because I won't ever, I think it's only our second time to ever play Clank in Space because it's not bad because it's the same mechanics.
I know, so the dragon destroys the, like, castle essentially, or like crushes the castle, I guess is a better way to put it. What is that effect in Clank in Space? You're
trying to get to the escape pod, basically. And it's still the same idea. If you can get to a safe area, which is above ground, because there's a part of the ship, I think, it gets blown up or something by the cephalopod or whatever. But the way you escape is you have an individual escape pod you have to go to escape to get your extra 20 points. But there is a safe area. So same concept. You get it. You come out. If you're in this one space, you're still going to do okay. Ryder was so close to dying so many times. And I threw a dog a bone because the way it goes, if you remember Clank, if you buy something from the row, you turn over new cards, which could cause an attack. And I could have bought something from the row, but I'm like, you know what? It's his birthday. I'm not going to buy anything from the row. I'm going to buy something from this other row, right? Just to avoid an attack. And he barely survived. Both Will and Elizabeth were killed. They didn't make it out. So it was fantastic.
Wow.
So yeah, Clank in Space, it's thematically, you don't really feel the theme. It's just some slightly different mechanisms there for Clank. But Clank is fantastic. The other game is a brand new game I just got a week ago. It's the newest game from Stonemaier Games called Stamp Swap. And it's stamps, like collecting stamps. The theme of it is collecting stamps, which is, I didn't collect stamps as a kid, not for any one reason or another, but stamps were always cool. I was the kind of kid when I was younger, when stamps were still a thing, I always went to the post office to see what cool stamps they had, because I always wanted at least cool stamps to put on my stuff. Didn't collect them, but I always wanted cool things when I was mailing things out. Stamp Swap, it's a 2 to 5 player game, as all Stonemaier games are. And essentially it is a drafting and I split, you choose. And what we mean by that is you are spending, in I split, you choose, you have a set of stuff you separate and someone else chooses one part of that and you keep the other, right? That's the I split, you choose mechanism, which Robbie and I texted and we agree is not used nearly enough. And most board game reviewers agree it's not used nearly enough. Drafting and deck building and all that is very common. I split, you choose is not. But in this one, you go around the table and you're drafting stamps from the middle of the table, some face up, some face down. And then that set of stamps, you're going to create 2 piles. You get to keep 1 stamp. So you're going to have 6 things. You get to keep 1. And the other 5, you put into pile 3 and a pile 2. Some other things can mess with that, but that's the general idea. You put them above your board, and then we only played a 2-player version, so it's a little different. Well, it's still the same, but Elizabeth would choose 1 pile and take it, and I'd take the other one back. Then I choose one of her piles, and I'll take it. So you're drafting things you may not even get to keep. So you can go super deep and heavy by like, do I hate draft hoping she takes it, or do I just take all the stuff that I want? Because you have individual scoring goals and community scoring goals as well. It's definitely a light to midweight game, but I love drafting so very much, and I love I Split You Choose. And the other cool thing is there are some face up stamps and face down stamps, and they stay face down even during the I Split You Choose mechanism, right? So once you draft it, you can now look at the face down stamps, you know it is, but it stays face down, so your opponent still doesn't know what that is. And there's also some specialist cards you can get to help you kind of break the game to do other little things. Oh, I can look at my opponent's face down ones or whatever. No, it's not going to break the bank. It's not going to be the greatest game ever, but it's a game that I really liked. We only played it once. It'll definitely hit the table again. But super quick and easy, especially for a gamer. An APer could get overthink it. It was my common thing. Just play the game. But it's one, it could easily rise to the top to show you in November.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you mentioned, that I Split You Choose mechanism is something that's just not in like a lot of games, which is really, really cool. And I kind of dig that, like, I understand that there are Stonemaier games that, like, this does happen, but I feel like a lot of Stonemaier games can end up feeling very single player solitaire-ish. Like, it's very much like I'm building my tableau, I'm doing this, because Jamie likes positive player interaction. Like, it's something he's obviously very outspoken about. And so I love that, like, the idea of constant interaction occurring. Really, really cool. So yeah, very, very excited to try that. Like we said, it's been a week. So we filmed last Tuesday. I went to our competitive Lorcana tonight, got absolutely demolished that night. It was tough out there. I had a card games be card gaming. And sometimes you just have to deal with the cards that come up. One of my cards is Ariel. And when you play her, you look at the top 4 cards of your deck and try to pull a song. The deck I ran had 24 songs out of a 60 card deck. My Ariel throughout the night missed 9 times.
Oh, wow.
Like 60 cards in the deck. I'm pulling 4 of them, and almost half of my deck is songs.
Right.
What? It was crazy. So I played there. But then Wednesday night packed for my trip. I was in Orlando from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then hung out with my wife last night because I hadn't been here for a few days. And so I actually haven't played any games. So when Jason and I first talked about this segment, we were like, it's going to be games we played lately, but also, let's be honest, we're talking to board gamers here. So we have some geekier people, in the audience. And so we can talk about some different stuff. So I was in Orlando for Halloween Horror Nights, and wanted to talk about that for a brief second for the fans in the audience. And that is, Halloween Horror Nights is done by Universal Studios. They have one in Hollywood. They have one in Orlando. I went to Orlando. And they set up 10 houses. It's like makeup artists that work on movie sets, and set designers come in and they use the actual sound studios that they film movies in and set up these elaborate mazes of haunted houses. And so really, really fun. Some of the big themed houses this year were A Quiet Place, Insidious had their own house. And then the other big IP was Ghostbusters. And so you just know Ghostbusters is not going to be like a scary house.
Right.
It was so fun though. Like so fun. One of the characters, is like the little marshmallow men. This dude's just getting mauled by like a ton of the marshmallow men. And you walk into the room and he's just screaming. And he's like, so like super, super fun. Some of the houses legitimately terrifying. I'm a scaredy cat to the core. But friends and we went last year for the first time. My wife did not come this year because she is like 7 months pregnant. And so that would have been a bad idea, just like scaring her for multiple hours. So decided not that. So missed having her there on the trip, but really, really, really fun. I think the standout house for me was this Monsters of Latin America house. That was like 3 essentially like urban legends about monsters in the Latin America space. And they brought all of them to life. That was super cool. The A Quiet Place house was, a lot of people dogged on it. We really loved it. I love those movies.
Right.
So it was just, it was really fun going through there and getting to experience it. But yeah, Horror Nights, if you're a Horror Nights regular, or there are so many things, Jason, that I learned about Horror Nights. Like, I learned that apparently in the houses every year, it's like a mini game that people have that the designers hide an object in every single house. So like last year I think it was a turtle hidden in every house. It's like hidden Mickeys at Disney. And so they hide these things. So this year it was snails. And so I didn't learn about this until I'd already been through all 10 houses, and we went back and looped a couple more houses. And I was like, I know I'm going to get got by these scare actors really bad, because I'm just going to be like honed in on the walls. And if they pop out, I'm done for. So really, really fun. You've not done Horror Nights, but have y'all done Horror Nights? Y'all done it at like Busch Gardens?
Yeah, we did Howl Scream at Busch Gardens last year, which is, it's not hard Halloween Horror Nights, but it's pretty good. Like, the production of it is pretty high as well. So, but we went through a couple of the houses, the farce, while the daylight was still out, and it has a very different feel in the daylight. Not necessarily a better or worse feel. It's almost, it could be cooler in the day. And then we did that second loop because we went on like a weeknight and it was hardly anybody there. So it was pretty easy. So, and we enjoyed it. Our hope is to one day, and it may be a few years in the future, is to take all my kids and their respective, better halves to Halloween Horror Nights. Cause we've never gone, cause we weren't into Universal while we were there, cause the kids were so small. And then when we were in Alabama, it just didn't work out for us to go to Halloween Horror Nights. We thought about it more than once. Elizabeth would have hated it. Even at Howl Scream, she literally had a crazy grip on my arm. Like, I probably was bruised then because she was holding so tight. One day we'll go.
Yeah, it's a blast. So would love to know in the comments if you are a Horror Night fan. What was some of your standout houses? Obviously, no big spoilers or anything. We want people to be able to enjoy. I forget that we always go so early that it's like, oh yeah, it's right near the end of it. I'm talking about it. It's like, bro, it ain't even October yet. So what are we doing? But yeah, so today we have a classic game. I would say, like, it's kind of crazy how long it's taken us for a board game podcast focused on like bringing people into the hobby to get to here. 29 episodes. Now obviously it's not 29 games, but 29 episodes. But today we're talking about Pandemic, which is a cooperative game that just excels. So Jason, you want to give the people some insight into the game?
Sure thing. It was, excuse me, released in 2009, which when you play it, it doesn't necessarily feel like it's a 2009 game. You could see this game released today and do just as well with some mechanics. And we'll talk about some of the other versions of Pandemic that continue to get released and do well with the system. But if the system came out today, it'd be great. Designed by Matt Leacock, who also designed the Forbidden series of games, which we've hinted on before: Forbidden Desert, Forbidden Island, Forbidden Jungle. And if you think about, when you think back to those games, you can see the basics of Pandemic because you're different characters with different abilities taking actions, right? Much more basic level, much more not as deep strategic, but you can tell that's the basis of those things. Published by Z-Man Games, 2 to 4 players, plays in 45 to 60 minutes, which is pretty accurate because whether you have 2 players, 3 players, or 4 players is pretty much the same time frame. It just may take a little longer because of how much you discuss among 4 players versus 2. Spiel des Jahres nominee back in 2009, so you know right there it's got some meat to it for sure. In Pandemic, several diseases have broken out simultaneously all over the world. Players are disease-fighting specialists whose mission is to treat disease hotspots while researching cures for each of those 4 diseases before they get out of hand. The game board depicts several major population centers on the Earth, basically got a map of the Earth with a bunch of major cities. On each turn, a player can use up to 4 actions. They can travel between cities, treat infected populations, discover a cure, or build a research station. 4 basic actions. A deck of cards provides the players with these abilities based on the cards you get. You can take actions from those because you're getting city cards to do stuff, but you're also getting some event cards. Sprinkled throughout this deck are also what are called epidemic cards that accelerate and intensify the disease's actions across the board. A second separate deck of cards controls the normal spread of the infections, because at the end of each turn, you're going to infect more cities. Taking a unique role in the team, players must plan their strategy to mesh with their specialist strengths, because everyone has unique ability to conquer diseases. For example, the operations expert can build research stations, which are needed to find the cures and allow for greater mobility for cities, whereas the scientist only needs 4 cards of particular disease to cure it instead of the normal 5. Excuse me. If one or more diseases spreads beyond recovery, or if too much time elapses, the players all lose. If they cure all 4 diseases, they all win. That's the very quick, high-level discussion of pandemic.
Yeah, it sounds it like mini games. The cognitive load when you look at this board right off the bat, it is, to me, when I look at a board of Risk to start, because I feel like when you like diving into setup and teach, the initial setup of a game of Risk is really kind of like, it can feel like a lot because you're placing the pieces out. And I think it, like, technically in Risk, you're supposed to like draft as you go around. Like, you place troops here and you kind of claim your spots as you go.
Yeah.
But it's the same idea that it's a global map and you're placing pieces all over. And this one, you're not placing pieces that you control all over. You're spreading the disease to start in certain spaces. You're getting the decks set up. So the cognitive load when you first look at it, if you've never played the game before, can feel really overwhelming. Like right off the bat, because you're like, wow, there are a billion actions I can take. What I really like about this is that it is a cooperative game. And you're going to hear us talk about this thing a lot, that it's a cooperative game, because it is, I would argue, probably the most popular cooperative game that's out there.
Yeah, I would agree. It's the, maybe not the OG, because there were definitely cooperative games before it, but it's the one that hardcore gamers, a lot of them started off with, and a lot of them still have in their top 100 to this day, right? They still come back to it because of the nature of it. And we talked a little bit about cooperative. Obviously, we talked a lot about cooperative when we did Marvel United. In a cooperative game, you're all working together to accomplish the goal, even though you each have your own unique actions. The fun of cooperative game, because it forces a social interaction, right? Too many games, a la Jamie Stonemeyer and other games, are single-player solitaire, so you can kind of ignore each other. Talked about Calico last week. That's a game that you're not really socializing because you're so deep in strategy on that one. Whereas by default, all cooperative games, especially this one, you have to talk to each other because each of you is going to provide actions to help with that. You're going to do something. You can't just go off solo on your own. Conversely, the danger of cooperative games is you could have a quarterback who's basically telling everybody what they should do with their stuff. That'll ruin it very quickly for everybody. Don't be that guy or gal. I was off and on that guy and gal. Ryder still struggles with it because we're gamers and we can see everything and we think we have the right path or the best path. But that's also the good and bad of cooperative, is that everyone working together, it's a fun time, and you experience this all together.
Yeah. And like, to me, knowing that, like, it helps ease the burden of that cognitive load right off the bat. Because if you're a newer player and you're diving in, sometimes it's okay if you have a Ryder sitting at the table, you have a Jason sitting at the table, or you have someone who's like less kind than Ryder and Jason, and they're going to try to quarterback it. If there's a turn that you're like, I genuinely don't know what to do. It's not like games where it's like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to do this thing and it probably is going to lose me the game.
Right.
You can ask for help and get an optimal move suggestion from you. So you can really, in a cooperative game, kind of take the onus as much as you want to in helping create the win. Like, if you're not really a cooperative games player, but everyone wants to play a cooperative game, you can sort of take a back seat and just be like, I'm here because I want to be part of the discussion. I want to be where the people are, one of those aerial situations, but you don't have to actually drive any of it. So I do love that while you could set on the setup, you're looking and you're like, how are we ever supposed to clear all these? And especially after the first turn when you really don't accomplish a lot and the disease is spread again, you're like, we're done. Yeah. Like we're going to lose. Easy peasy. And you notice and you look around the table and everyone else is like, oh, we're chilling. Like this is fine. That is a phrase that I use so often in this game is, oh yeah, we're chilling. We're fine. We're fine.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
Easy peasy.
We'll be fine.
So
the other fun thing, I'll inject this too when it comes to cooperative games. The other fun thing about cooperative games is that in these type of cooperative games right here, so like other cooperative games we've talked about, the Crew technically is a cooperative game, right? But when I look at the top 100, I did a quick look, all the other cooperative games are like big, heavy, big narrative games. This is really surface level. I mean, the cognitive load is there and the complexity is over 2, but because you're working together and everyone has their own kind of mindset on it, it's easier to work through those challenges. But the cool thing that you can do with a game like this is you can just run it as 2-player, and it's just 2 people doing it. Or you can run it as 2 people controlling 4 characters. So there's that own unique challenge for it as well. You can play this solo. A lot of solo folks will play Pandemic and just run 2 characters because it's all open information anyway. Now, it's all on you to be honest. Every game you play, it's on you to have integrity first, right? But when Elizabeth and I played, we had never run 2 characters before. And so I ran 2 characters, she ran 2 characters. And that helps jumping ahead to replayability. It helps with replayability. You can go to pure 2 characters. You could do 1 is 2 and 1 is 3, or you could do 4 because there's so much variety in that.
Yeah. And I'm a theme guy. We talk about themes often. The theme of this game resonates so well. I think they did so many things right in this. And the theme, like, I would imagine, I've never looked up upgraded bits for this. I think the only way that you could really take the theme even further there is if instead of, so the diseases are represented by little cubes. And so like there are these little colored cubes, and Pandemic was one of the first games, and I'm trying to think if I ever because in the big 3, Catan doesn't have like the cubes. You have the houses and the roads. Carcassonne,
it's just the meeples. Yeah, it's just the meeples,
just the meeples.
Nothing else.
And then Ticket to Ride, it's just
trains,
carts. So you have, so this is I remember this being one of the first pieces that I ever came across that was those little cubes. Yeah. Which ends up being used in so many games. Like I go straight to, Lords of Waterdeep has these cubes. It's very similar cubes. So the cubes, like thematically, I'm sure there are versions of this that it's some form of a germ or like that those cubes look different.
I can't really see it, but I have them. So we got on Etsy, and it's literally this. The camera's not going to show it, but it's the perfect replica of what the cube is on the board. So we actually have the upgraded bits instead of the cubes, which are very cool, and I've had them for a long time. But anyway, they're fun.
Yeah. And like to me, if you like having that takes the theme of it.
Yes.
Already is I'm rushing around the world. I'm trying to figure out how to stop this disease. And it's like, oh, the disease, we've kind of ignored it in this place. And like a disease classically should, it spreads faster.
Yeah.
Huh. Curious. Like, so the only thing I feel like that pulls you out of it is the basic cubes, which still didn't even really pull me out of it. So having those upgraded bits is like, that's incredible.
For sure. So, well, all right, let's go a little deep if you're ready for that, man. So we'll talk about setup and teach. We covered it really high. That discussion alone was really great. Like I enjoyed it, and hopefully it gives people an idea about the cooperative nature of the game and the game itself at a high level. But let's talk a little deeper. So the setup is easy, but takes a little bit of time, like Robbie said, because you have all these cubes, and to start the game, you have to infect cities, which is basically shuffling a deck, pulling over a card, and putting 3 of those cubes out at 3 different cities, 2 of those cubes out at 3 different cities, and 1 of those cubes out at 1 city. Very easy setup. Just takes a little bit of time. Not as much time as 7 Wonders takes, by the way, but it still takes a little bit of time. The teach, each of the actions are extremely easy, But as you already referenced, the cognitive load of adding every action on top of each other and what the ultimate goal of the game is can start stacking up pretty heavy, which is why the complexity level, so BGG has a complexity level of 1 to 5. I was surprised, but then not surprised to see Pandemic's complexity level is 2.4. I would think it'd be closer to 2 because, really? But I play complex games. So to me, it's like a 1.98 to 2.1, not 2.4. But when Elizabeth and I played the game 2 nights ago, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, there's so many domino effects you have to do. Well, I can move here to build a research station, but then I got to move there to give you a card, and I'm jumping in the strategy. So going into the setup, coming back to the teach, bunch of little actions. Hey, I can go from this city to city, just always move. Can fly from this city to this city if I discard a card of where I'm leaving, or if I discard the card of where I'm flying. Okay, I can always go from research station to research station. All those little bitty things add up, as opposed to Calico, super crunchy, is literally play a tile and take a tile. Only one action, but its crunch level is crazy. Whereas this is a bunch of little easy actions that you have to put all together. Cooperative makes it a little easier. So the teach of the actions isn't hard, but trying to explain the purpose of those actions, right, and how they can add up can definitely start stacking on top of their mind.
Yeah. And like, I'm with you on when you are the actions themselves, how you combo them together is really where the game takes complexity.
Yep.
Because you're going to do multiple things. And so at your start, it's like, oh, I have 4 actions a turn. And like, I'm going to do 4, like I'm going to do these things. So you're like, oh, well, there's like, I'm going to head to this place. And like, you try to think really simplistic. And I think that's where the quarterbacking really takes over is that people, when you're playing with a bunch of first timers playing this game, because they're in sort of that simple mindset and they aren't necessarily trying to combo, or they're not like,
right,
oh, we have these different characters with different abilities. How do we work them in? It's very on the teaching thing. I could see someone teaching this game really poorly and not letting people have that simplicity right off the bat. Like if a quarterback teaches this game, the teach is going to take forever.
Yeah.
Because they're going to try to basically be like, and here's the combos you're going to need to, oh, you're the medic? Okay, perfect. So here's what we're going to need you to do during this. And we're like, bro, I haven't even gone yet. I don't even know. So I think if I were teaching this game, I would try to teach on the light side and like maybe just fail the first time. Like it's cooperative games can have this feeling of like, it's us versus the board where there's no way the board should ever win type deal. So there is this like heavy load, and Mysterium is a great example of this. Like almost every time I play Mysterium, we lose the first time we play. Yeah. I kind of love that because it puts a fire under people to come back and play it again. Pandemic, if you're playing with at least half the people have played before, I feel like it's very difficult to lose on the first go.
Yeah. It's still, I agree with that. What I will say, well, it depends on how complex you want the game to be, because you can add 4 or 5 or 6 academic cards. Elizabeth and I did 4. And Elizabeth doesn't know Pandemic as well as me and Ryder do. So I even said, I'm not going to make any recommendations for you in the entire game, Elizabeth. And I did 90% good with that without making a single recommendation for her. So, but the point being there is like, if you know the game, then your mind's already thinking about that. So going to your point about the teach, I agree. Like if I give somebody the medic, I'm already thinking about what they can do, but a bad teacher is going to start telling them what they should do, as opposed to if me and Ryder go two-hand it, and he gets the medic and the ops research is, okay, you're going to focus on this and this, and I'm going to do this, and let's go, right? We already know what our roles are because we know the game so well that we can just put it out and play it and deal with it as it comes up. What you kind of hit on something that we really need to talk about is that Pandemic is actually a very, very hard game. Maybe not 2 varies. It can be a hard game, so go into it knowing you may not win, but not all games are meant to be win. And you even said it's probably pretty good if your first time you play through, you lose, because you in life, teaching moment, we learn more when we lose than when we win, right? If we're always winning, we're not learning anything. If we're losing, we're learning, oh, we could have done that better, and we could have done this better. Just like every game, pretty much every game we play together, Robbie, we dissect that game afterwards and see what could we have done better individually, what we could do. And in pandemic can be not punishing, but can be anxiety driven, because you're like, okay, oh wow, I ignored that disease. Now it's picking up. Now it's going here. So I love the fact that there's always that threat of losing, as opposed to we all win or lose, as opposed to during some games, you don't really know if you're going to lose it, but that one you're working together to try to not lose.
Yeah. Yeah. And once again, I just feel like people, that's so fascinating that it's a 2.4. Like, I can't get past that. Yeah. Like, I get it. And I can see it because, like I said, even like you said, it is a hard game. And I think cooperative games get lumped into this. Like, they're cooperative because, like, they're easy. It's just not true. Sometimes when they're too easy, that can really push you off of a cooperative game. Yeah. Like, Lindsay, I had to make sure, like, when we played Marvel United the first time, Lindsay and I just destroyed it. Yeah. Like, it was like, okay, sick. And she was like, I feel like we need, like, did we cheat? Yeah. Did we do something that made that easy? And I was like, no, I think we just gelled and we had the right combo. Like, I think we kind of got lucky, and I think we played it really well. But we can choose like a more difficult boss to play, or more difficult villain to play against. Like, so you can ramp up the difficulty accordingly. Yeah. I love leaning into, that. And I think another, when you're talking about like the replayability of it, and we already touched on theme, but if you want to, we can just jump into sort of the gameplay. Yep. Is that I do think there are certain roles. So each person's going to get assigned a role that has a certain power or a focus. And if you're playing with basically 4 people at 4 of these roles used, some of the roles inherently have a little more strength than others in terms of, like, it's really tough to win if you don't have, depending on what your table's play style is. It's like, man, like, I know a crew that's like, we have to have the scientist. Like, if we don't have the scientist, like, we will lose. Unless we play on like the most easy setting that we can, we have to have the scientist. And it's like, but some people just don't really lean into having the scientist. And so, like, you can change up the difficulty based on, I think all 4 of these roles are like the most overpowered roles in the game. Yeah. Awesome. Play with those 4 roles. Enjoy it. Like, you've got to find the fun for you when it comes to this, which takes the replayability, because you could play as all 7 roles, and I promise you it plays different depending on what role you have.
Yep. I agree. And that's to me, that's where a lot of the fun comes in. I mean, we like asymmetric abilities, right? In games that we like the basic mechanics, which I do in Pandemic, what really jacks it up some to that challenging level and the fun level is what each person's ability is. You kind of referenced that. The medic, Ryder always likes playing the medic. We did Pandemic Legacy, which we'll talk about later, but Ryder always wanted to be the medic. So because of the medic in general for the game, when you move into a city, if you're in a city, one of your 4 actions can be to treat the disease, which is basically remove a cube, right? The medic, when they treat, they remove every cube no matter what. And then once a disease has been cured, if the medic's just in the city, any remaining cubes just go away automatically. Super powerful thing. Elizabeth and I didn't have the medic in our game, and I was a little worried at the beginning. We had the scientist, which only needs 4 cards to cure a disease. We only used her once. Like, the scientist to me is like, okay, she's going to cure everything, because I started off with, we ended up using her twice by dumb luck. We were going one way or the other, but I started off with like 3 reds in my hand as the scientist. Very easy when you already have 3 reds, right? Because we solved it. I think on my second turn, we cured red on literally the second turn of the scientist. So, and we also had the ops expert, which I was never an ops expert fan, but then we started building more research stations around. To me, I still think the ops expert who can just build a research station wherever as an action can be weak. But if you use those research stations to fly, so to remind everybody, when you move, you can always just move one city to the next. Just move. That's one action. You can fly to a city, but you either have to discard the card that's in your hand from the city you're in. So if you're in Atlanta and you want to fly anywhere in the world, you have to discard Atlanta if you have Atlanta. Or if you're anywhere else and you want to fly to a city, you have to discard the city that you're flying to. The key is those cards are colored. They're names of cities, and they're colored, which we haven't really talked about yet. For a normal person to solve a cure or to cure a disease, they have to just turn in 5 of those colors at a research station. So if you're using them to fly around the world, you're giving up potential cures for your disease. And so I never really thought the ops expert was that strong, but if you strategically place them, the other action you can do, you can always fly from one research station to the next as an action. Well, that's great if you're putting those research stations in unique places, right? So it forces you to think about what their abilities can be and how we're going to use it for that particular game. Contingency Planner we had, and Contingency Planner can take a previously used event after it's been used and bring it out. Some of the events are, hey, skip an infect city step. One is just fly anyone to any place. One is just build a research station. Well, if you already have the ops expert in your game, that one's maybe not that great. I love the having to think through what those characters do and what they could do in your game. Once you know it, if you don't really know at the beginning, that it is 2.4, like that the complexity level can be there because there's so many little steps you have to take. Well, you have a red and you have 3 reds. We got to get you all together so you can give your Madrid or Tokyo. So how do I get you to Tokyo? Well, the researcher can just come get that and then go anywhere because the researcher can share any card as long as you're in the same city. That load starts adding up for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, like, if we had a friend who quarterbacked a lot, like heavy quarterback. And I remember there were moments of like, hey, you can't, if you get the dispatcher, we're going to redeal. Yeah. Because the dispatcher essentially can move, I believe the ruling says with permission.
It does, yeah. It says get permission before.
Yeah. That was always very loosely applied because it was, oh, so you want us to lose? So you don't want me to make the optimal move here?
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, like I had a plan. I was moving there for a reason. And so, that card had to be put away for a little while for us to enjoy it. So it just shows you, like, there are roles that are really going to shine for your crew, and there are roles that are like, hey, like you're talking about the ops expert. Like, I'm just grinning over here because I'm like, that was my jam. As I was like, man, I am all about, like, let us move. I don't give, like, I'm not going to touch the diseases. I'm just moving around. Like, if I got the spare time, sure. But I really do appreciate that complexity of the roles because and that's where the combo combinations really, really shine in this game. So that the first time you play it, it may feel like, okay, well, we won, but I'm not really sure how we won. And you can kind of dream up as things happen. And it is definitely a rush, like watching the thing. So Jason, you want to talk about how diseases spread? Because I think that is probably the coolest part of the game to me.
Yeah, for sure.
How it all happens.
So like we said, when you set up the game, you have 3 cities that have 3 cubes, 3 cities with 2, and 3 with 1. And at the end of every person's turn, after they've taken their actions, they're going to draw 2 cards, which are city cards from one deck. Maybe an epidemic comes out from there. But then another deck, the infections deck, is a card with every single city that's on the board in that deck. That's how you did the initial 9 infections. And you would draw 2 cards. You'd turn over Calcutta, put a single cube in Calcutta. Turn over card, it's Washington, D.C., put a cube. So that's how diseases are getting put in those cities. When an epidemic hits, which comes out of the research deck, which is where the city cards are at, you then pull the card off the bottom of the deck, put 3 cubes there, and then shuffle all the cards that have been discarded. So now these cities that originally had 3 multiple diseases there, multiple instances of diseases, multiple cubes, are now put on the top. And as you flip it over, now you're putting cubes out again. But if you ever turn over a city card that says put out a cube and there's already 3 there, an outbreak happens. Outbreaks are not how you want to, is not what you want in this game. The 3 ways you lose are if you have, I think it's 7 outbreaks. If you ever can't put a cube on the board, when it says to put a cube on the board while flipping over infections, or if you ever can't draw a card from the research deck. That's the 3 ways you lose. I've lost all 3 ways multiple times. There's no one specific way that's more than the other in my experience, right? It's based on how the game goes for you. The toughest thing is daisy chaining. So, because you may have a city that has 3 cubes, and the very next city connected to it has 3 cubes. So what I didn't say, when you outbreak, you have 3 cubes there. It says put another one there. You don't put one there. You move up the outbreak outbreak tracker. But then every city attached to that city, say you had Baghdad, you would put a cube to every city connected to that. So now you're increasing infections with other cities. If those other cities already had 3, now it's another outbreak. So now you've got this daisy chain effect, and now it's another outbreak. So as Robbie referenced earlier, if you're ignoring a region too long, you could lose the game very quickly in almost one turn, right? You could have 3 outbreaks or 4 outbreaks in a single turn if the unluckiness of the draw has put that many cubes out there. Lisbon Night almost lost. We literally won with 1 turn to go. The very next turn, we flipped it over. It would have been epidemic. We would have lost, right? Because an outbreak was happening. So we're like, oh, we're cruising. Holy crap. We barely won. Like it was, and we were smoking at the beginning. It's like, oh wow, this is way too easy. This is way too easy. And then we barely won, which is very exciting for sure.
Yeah. Dude, that daisy chain feeling where it's giving me like such a fun smile in the back of my head, because there are moments where you're turning over the city cards and you're like, it just can't be. Like, it can't be Algeria. Like, if it's Algeria, we're done. Like, there's no way. And then bang. Yep. Congratulations. Yep. You played a great game
yes.
up to that point. Like, and the heart of the card said, sorry, brother, you're done. Like that. But I think that's one of the times where the cooperative game really shines to me, because like, I'll reference, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago in games we played lately. So we have a moment where we're playing Grand Austria Hotel, and Jason's like, hey, I have to make this move. The die have to roll my way or else I lose. Like that's it. GG. And Jason goes for the roll and he gets it. Like that's such a rush on both sides of that coin, because I'm sitting here and like, if he doesn't get it, I'm like, whoa, that was crazy. I can't believe that I won, because that's why I won. And then Jason on the other side wins with the dice roll, and it's like, wow, I can't believe that the dice actually landed that way.
Right.
But there's like the coin flip, and one side is really happy and the other side's like, we lost. On this one, you're going for the coin flip in a cooperative game.
Right.
And we ride and die together. So like it flips over and it's not Algeria. Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's go, guys. Let's go. Yeah. And then if it flips over, you're not alone in your sadness and going like, oh man, I can't believe it. Like, you just kind of all get to chuckle together to be like, wow, dude, we just spent 35 minutes and we just got rocked by that card. I cannot believe we let that happen. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, you just go, yeah, we could play again. Yeah. And then you just run it back. Like it's so incredible.
For sure. And to me, that's what helps with the replayability of this game. Not that it needs help, because the game mechanics itself, the unique abilities, to me, I come back to asymmetric powers. These abilities make every game different based on who has what power and how the cards come out, how the cards flip, right? That automatically tells you it's going to be a different game every single time. But when you add in the experiences you have of that, you want to do it again. You want to see what you can do again. You want to see it again. Replayability is very, very high in this game. We didn't play it as much as we could because it's only a 4-player game. If there's any true knock to this as a family of 5, it's only a 4-player game. So Pandemic, while it got played a lot, did not get played near as much as we would have liked to get played. I think there's expansions that take it to 5 that we did, but the expansions weren't that great. A few different expansions for Pandemic. But if there's any internal knock to this game, truly, like I probably could find some other stuff to complain about, but I really don't have a lot. If there's one meaningful complaint, it only goes to 4. That's not a complaint. That's life. And there's another one, as a warning, you may lose more than you win this game. You need to know that up front. You may win more than you lose, but you're probably going to lose more than you win. But with the right crowd and the right actions, that's an awesome experience.
Yeah. My friend Lincoln introduced me to it, and he actually opened with that statement, Jason. There's a chance that we lose more than we win when it comes to this game. And I literally said, I do not want that to happen. Like, I don't want to lose on my first experience. And it was immaturity, like whatever it may be. Cause I mean, we played this like, over a decade ago, when I played it for the first time, which is crazy actually contemplating that. And so like, but he is a pandemic lifer.
Okay.
Like he loves this game, and he's not even our quarterback. Because he wants everyone to play this game all the time. He does everything he can to make sure everyone enjoys it. So we played on the scaled down version, but you can ramp up the difficulty of the game, which I really think is something that cooperative games really do shine, and it's a mechanic that doesn't really exist elsewhere, because it's like, oh, if we want to make this game harder, really lots of games that the game gets more difficult, it gets more difficult at a higher player count just because spaces get occupied faster. Like most Euros, I feel like play harder at higher player counts because it's like, oh man, I can't just kind of run my engine and place my things where I need to go, because this person may take what I view as a really ineffective move, but it does block me. It stops me from doing what I need to do. So like you can adjust the difficulty of this game, which is something that is really fun. I think that is great. But also if you're looking for the challenge, like I would be hard pressed to sit down. If I went like on my trip to Lynchburg, if me, Jason, Elizabeth, and Ryder sat down and played this game, I would not want to play it at its most basic difficulty, just because I believe it's the same pride that we had, right? Of looking at the crew where we were like, we've already beaten 49 missions on hard mode. So like
hard mode,
they're still I mean, 100% we're running it back when we get there of like trying to beat mission 50 on hard mode. So it's, I really do. I love that aspect of it. And then like, I mean, I'm happy to talk about production and kind of like move to, honestly, the production, incredible. It's really well done. Like I said, those little plastic meeples, or not even plastic, the plastic cubes, really fantastic. The art is really pretty. The board is a nice thickness to it. Like it's not one of those cheap boards.
Yeah, it's good physical production, but also like you think about I mean, it sounds silly, but the graphic design of the city cards is just sleek. Like I think the city cards look really cool because it has the disease on there for that particular place, which doesn't necessarily relate. It has the colors. It's just clean. Like the graphic design is super clean there. You can't go wrong for sure. It's consistent. Like I said, you could do this, maybe clean up the character cards a little bit, but if this was released today with this production, no one would be like, oh, that's a 2000 production. They'd be like, oh, this is made for today. Maybe a little cleaner art on the character cards. What I will say, we'll jump to the side for a second if we're good with that. Spend a couple minutes. I mentioned earlier that there's multiple versions of Pandemic. There's essentially a Pandemic universe, right? This is the OG game that everybody loves, or at least in the game world is accepted as almost like a monument, right? Like Ticket to Ride, like Settlers, like Carcassonne. It's up there when it comes to cooperative games. It is on the monument for cooperative games, right? So Pandemic has this legacy. I didn't mean to do that on purpose. It has a legacy of games, but also has Pandemic legacy games. Actually, which are one-time playthrough games. I've talked about them before, but legacy style games are games in which you play it, you're playing through, you're changing the board as you go. So Pandemic has this new legacy of different games. It has the Legacy series where there's a season 1, season 2, and season 0. But it also has this whole other world of different versions of Pandemic system. There's a World of Warcraft Wrath of the Lich King. Same basic game elements, which are taking 4 actions, but you have objectives you're trying to do. There's Star Wars The Clone Wars, which I have over here, which is cool because I'll show this. It comes with minis, so like there's Darth Maul, but it's Clone Wars from the animated series and the movies, which is fantastic because you'll see the Bad Batch in there and you'll see other characters, Ahsoka Tano, right? Who she has her own show now, but she isn't in the movie universe, but she's from the animated verse. So Star Wars Clone Wars, it's the same basic actions that you have but it changes it up enough to actually make it a little bit better if you played a ton of base Pandemic, because now you have objectives and you're trying to defeat this main character. And if you're a Star Wars fan, I mean, I have my Bad Batch shirt on just by coincidence. If you're in the Star Wars fan, especially the animated Clone Wars universe as well as the movie universe, I could not emphasize how great Star Wars The Clone Wars the game is. And a lot of the same things we say about this are the same there because you have Jedis, their unique abilities. I don't know the Wrath of the Lich King, but same concept. You have an asymmetric ability and you have objectives. But in the legacy, so we'll pivot and talk about the legacy universe. In Pandemic Legacy, you have a minimum of 12 games. So you're going to play this one time through. Technically, at the end, you could keep playing, but the rules are so crazy, it doesn't matter. But it's still the same basic game. You are starting as characters who are trying to cure these things, cure these diseases, and possibly even eradicate them. But as the game goes, different events happen, and you're literally changing your board. You're putting stickers on the board that change things. You're literally tearing up cards. The coolest thing on earth is to take a card and go, whoom, that card is gone forever. You'll never see it again. Pandemic Legacy Season 1, it's number 2 on BGG of the greatest games ever. Pandemic Legacy Season 2. The Pandemic Universe has 5 games in the top 50. All 3 legacy games, Pandemic Iberia and then Pandemic, are all in the top 150 on BGG. That just talks about how beloved the series is and the universe of Pandemic is. I will say this: if you like I would play Pandemic first. You don't need to play Pandemic first to do Pandemic Legacy. Playing Pandemic first will give you that base understanding and appreciation for what Pandemic Legacy could be. Ryder and I played through Pandemic Legacy Season 1, and we're halfway through Season 2. When Season 2 came out, people thought it was better than Season 1, but it's kind of readjusted. Now Season 1 is still the higher one. Me, Elizabeth, Christopher, and Mandy have played through maybe almost half of Pandemic Legacy Season 1, but then we moved, so we'll probably never finish it. The key thing about a legacy game is you need a group that can always get together. But I cannot emphasize how amazing Pandemic Legacy is. If you like the Pandemic games, Pandemic Legacy is insane. Robbie, if you could ever get a consistent group, and maybe with Ryan, now that you kind of like a mini game group going on,
yeah,
you need to do Pandemic Legacy Season 1. Go to Season 1 because it's the best. It is amazing.
Yeah, legacy games are just it's a whole new world of like coolness to the game. And I think it really encapsulates how well this game is done, because you put it like when people talk about the big 3 in board games, Pandemic is not included in the big 3. But it is very much on that next tier. It is the Splendors and the Azules. Like Absolutely. It's right there in terms of inclusion. And then I just think about like how successful the spinoffs have been, how successful the alternatives have been. And it just shows you like how good of a game it is. And it's one that like, there's no world that Jason ever sells his copy of Pandemic. Like
no.
There just isn't. And as someone who has a lot of games, and this is like, I feel like it's one of your common things. It's like, we got a lot of games, so it's hard for this one to get to the table. That's probably still true for Pandemic.
Yeah.
But it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, because it's just that solid of a game. And yeah, I would be really curious on the Wrath of the Lich King one as well. As a big WoW guy.
Yep.
That's like, it makes that IP so much more rich and that playing experience so much better. $32 on Amazon right now.
Yep.
That's not bad, y'all.
That's not bad.
That's not bad. I feel like anything around the $30 range is complete. I always equate it to movies. Like for me to go buy 2 movie tickets, that's 2 hours of entertainment. And for me and my wife, and it's going to cost us $35-$40.
Yep.
And that's if we're just buying tickets. So like, and I'm going to get more than 2 hours of entertainment out of Pandemic. Yeah. Really, really solid cost. Jason, do we want to jump into cookies?
Yep, we're going to
do you want to go first or second? What's your vibe?
I'll let you go first.
Okay, perfect. So I will go ahead and say that I walked into this discussion with a cookie in mind. I had it like ready. And it's funny. I don't know if you do this, Jason, but I like try to think about what you might rate it as and like see, does that affect I try not to let it affect my cookie rating. But I'd be lying if I said that it doesn't have some effect on it. And so I had an idea of where Jason was going to land. So I walked in with this certain one, but as we just continue to discuss it, and I think back to that joy that I get of like so many memories, and it's nostalgic. Like I will 100% acknowledge that nostalgia is, you could even argue, clouding my vision, but I don't think it is, because I agree with Jason that like the biggest knock that I personally have on it is sometimes the people you play with can ruin the game.
Yep.
Like great example. When I sold Lindsay, we're playing Pandemic, like we're talking about Pandemic tomorrow. Exact reaction. She goes, ugh. Like, because she's only played with our quarterback friend. Like, she played it once with a quarterback friend and she was out. Like, that's it. She never touched it again.
Yep.
It ruined the experience for her.
That's true.
But because I've gotten to play with multiple people, for me, it's a double doozy. Like, I'm dropping it in a double doozy. I am not a cooperative game lover. My favorite cooperative game is Mysterium. I think Marvel United is right behind it. But, like, it's crazy because I don't include Pandemic even in it because it's like in this protected little halo of a box hovering above all the other games because I just have so many phenomenal memories of we can't have this city. We can't have this. We got that city.
Yep.
Oh, boy. All right. I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to get another Diet Coke. Lincoln, I need you to reset it. And we're going to get this.
Yeah.
We're going to get it with 6. Like, we're going to get it.
Yeah.
Okay. And like, I don't care if we don't go to sleep tonight. We're winning this game on this difficulty. Like, let's go. Such fantastic memories. Yeah. I wasn't a family of 5 growing up. We just knew there were nights that we legitimately hoped people didn't, like a 5th didn't show up for game night because we were like, if they don't, we can play Pandemic. All right, let's do it. Okay, game on. So yeah, it's a double doozy for me. How about you, Jason?
I came in knowing it, when we said last week, we decided, because I was one, as soon as we got off the episode last week, I said, hey, let's do Pandemic because we knew it was a short week, but we both know Pandemic so well. Like when I got out to set it up with Elizabeth, like I literally didn't have to read anything because I played Legacy so much, which is the same gameplay, that I had to read anything. Like I just had to, I double checked, but there was nothing in there that I didn't already know. So I already knew what my rating was going to be, and so it's still there. My rating for Pandemic, I'm going to break the rules, okay? If I was just rating Pandemic, it would be a specific rating, but I'm rating the Pandemic universe, knowing that's not what we normally do, right? I'm rating them all together because my gameplay of the other one, Specific Legacy, elevated regular Pandemic, which is a great game. So I'm coming in a double doozy, but it's for the universe, right? Because I love Legacy so much. If I just rated Pandemic, it wouldn't be a double doozy by itself. It's still a great game. Maybe chocolate chip, right? Probably chocolate chip. But I can't. Forever, the rest of my life, Pandemic will never be a standalone game. It will always be connected to Legacy in nothing but the most amazing, awesome, positive ways, right? Because there's such massive pivots in that game that when you open a certain box, you're going to go, no way. Yeah. I mean, it's just so crazy. And in Pandemic Legacy, if you lose, you have to replay the city again or that day because it's technically days or years. It's months. The game is based, start off in January. If you lose, you play January again. But if you lose again, you go ahead and move to February. So you're still progressing through. So Pandemic Legacy is either 12 games, minimum of 12, but a maximum of 24. I think Ryder and I took like 18 or 19. So we took a good bit of them. But the pivots in that game are so insane and something you would never think. And there's a reason why it's an all-time great. So it together, it can't be rated by itself because even when I'm playing with Elizabeth, the actions are still there, right? It's still moving somebody here to take care of this. So it's a double doozy with the little asterisk that I'm rating all the Pandemic universe together.
I think that is like, I think that's totally fair. There are just games that like it's really hard to separate. Like when we did Smash Up, I can't just think about Smash Up in base game. Like Smash Up to me is all of them included together. And so I'm here for it, guys. I think if you're looking for cooperatives, if you have a table group or you've got a significant other of someone who tries to come to play games like often and they feel like they get overwhelmed or things like that, this could be a great game to add to the table. I think if you don't have any cooperative games, this is definitely a great first purchase and really would elevate your table experience. I could go so far as to say, Jason, this is the boldest statement we're going to make today. I'm going to make today. I'm not going to say where. I would go ahead as to say that it's tough to call yourself a true board game, a modern hobby gamer, if you've not played Pandemic.
For sure. So those who are listening right now, you are not a gamer, Robbie just said. I didn't say that, but Robbie did. Just kidding. If you haven't played Pandemic, you won't regret it. modern hobby gamers will always love Pandemic because it come out day, it can be just as good.
Yeah. So that's going to wrap it for today's episode. Next episode, episode 30. So we're hitting a list. Jason and I are going to talk about some lists and some ideas, but we'd love your inspiration. Yep. So make sure you're letting us know, what do you want to see for episode 30 for our list? But thank you so much for listening, everyone. Y'all are the best. We appreciate you. 29 episodes down, Jason.
It's crazy. Over a year.
Man. Come on. So we will see you guys for episode 30.
See ya.